All right, so I've mentioned a few ways that cancer has been prevented and can be prevented, but let me go into a little bit of detail regarding some of the mechanisms. So cancer is a long-term process characterized by molecular events which culminate in loss of cell homeostatic function. All right, and you can see here, healthy cells becoming abnormal, becoming pre-invasive cancer, becoming invasive cancer, and the cancer is spreading. All right, so screening, the goal of screening is to prevent that invasive late-stage cancer. All right. Exposure to toxicity begins in childhood and builds up throughout life. All right, so it's not simply that adults are all of a sudden getting cancer. It's rather a buildup, and that's why I mentioned the early childhood adverse events. All right, so things can cause DNA damage, can cause the tissue to have some issues, and then in time, that can be a problem. Diverse interventions can slow or reverse carcinogenesis early along through risk assessment, screening, lifestyle changes, diet, exercise, and more. Okay, so this is the big idea. I've highlighted these two, and can you see the arrows I've added here? Healthy cells, all right, they're in green. Our goal is to get the healthy cells. Some of them have become abnormal. We can reverse the process. That's the green arrow, okay? This is one of the best things about prevention, is that it's possible to reverse. Now, some people will argue that there are certain oncogenes that are very difficult, KRAS, P53, and that's true, all right? But there's also research proof conducted by Soto and Seneshin, many articles they've written about cancer that has been reversed. So when you put cancer cell into healthy tissue, it tends to reverse, okay? It tends to become healthy again. That healthy environment can keep the abnormal cell healthy. This is important. It gives us hope because a person who has cancer can change their behavior. And I didn't add all of the data regarding, for example, smoking, but smokers who quit, their prognosis is much better. The chance of survival is much better. So for example, someone who's treated for lung cancer, if they are able to quit, they're much more likely to make it 5 years afterward than if they do not, okay? Throat cancer, for example, 75% chance of survival if they quit smoking. And if they don't quit smoking, that goes down to 50%, okay? So they've been smoking until the same point, but then the one person with the treatment quits smoking, the next person does not quit. Okay, that makes a big difference. So it's because of the persistently toxic environment in the tissues. Okay, so prevention for me, it's not just focused on screening. Screening is going to catch these people with, pre-invasive cancer. All right, but I also want to identify, and this is where we're identify the abnormal cells and encourage all the healthy people to take care of themselves so that they do not get abnormal cells and do not get cancer. All right, so cancer prevention has many foci. All right, there's the focus on, of course, screening and early diagnosis. These are the big blue ones people are well aware of. There's also a focus on preventing metastases. Okay, this is also a kind of prevention. And I'm not focusing too much on cancer treatment and treatment methods in this presentation. All right, but preventing metastases is something that is important to prevention. And I did mention that some treatments, some chemotherapy can exacerbate the problem. Okay, I did mention that. So I'm also focused on detecting cancer earlier than just a typical screen. And I'm going to introduce some of the technology in this presentation. And lastly, encouraging healthy people to stay healthy. People that are starting to get sick, encouraging them to change their behavior and also address the environmental carcinogens and help reverse that process. Okay, so here's what tissue looks like. In the beginning, there's some genotoxicity that's there on the left. Okay, so these kind of changes they can be there from a young age. It can happen starting in the womb. It can happen to young children developing genotoxicity and DNA damage as a result. Mutations lead to a quality of self-sufficient growth, and the cancer then, after growing enough, can start invading and spreading. All right, so our goal is to catch this early, catch this and address the toxicity. That would be ideal, of course, or at least before it has spread too much, catch this early. The earlier, the better. All right, so one of my focus is to address environment and lifestyle, okay? Address these risk factors because it's responsible for, I argue, the majority of cancer cases. When people often say that we could prevent 40% of cancer, for example, often this is said, they're often only mentioning lifestyle and not even considering environmental factors. So when we put them together, environmental factors and lifestyle, we're up to 80%. I showed you on the last slide. We can take this into our hands, take responsibility, and become empowered to make a difference. So some things we can look at, we can assess and address the toxicity in the tumor microenvironment. Okay, the tissue microenvironment. We can check the hypoxia, we can check the oxygen level, we can check inflammation. And people can sometimes see this. You will feel upset stomach, you will see redness, you will feel heat. pH is another one. Now, getting onto some of the higher technology, and there's some exciting developments happening. Blood and urine tests, saliva and genetic tests, these can all be used to check biomarkers, metabolomics, proteomics, transcriptomics, exosomes, and epigenetics. All right, so people can actually detect the cancer early. Why? Because there's traces of the cancer. Cancer cells are letting out biomarkers. They don't just metastasize. They actually communicate and prepare the way before they go. Kind of like how you'd make a plan and a phone call and a down payment before you go to your hotel. All right, cancer cells are doing this, and we can detect that. There are companies now like Toyota that have the ability to take a drop of blood and tell you if you have a major form of cancer or not. Vericide is able to do this with saliva. Okay, so there's some exciting things happening, and it's getting better. Prevention can aim to keep a tumor from becoming invasive. I mentioned that. Prevention can also aim to keep cancer from becoming more genetically diverse. All right, so that would be when we're trying to prevent cancer becoming deathly metastatic.